Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos offense still is struggling to cook, man. Russell Wilson just can't get in the kitchen and is just struggling to make it work with the ingredients that he has around him. And it's not all his fault, because that offensive line against the Arizona Cardinals, man, they were getting pushed back. And this is by what? Arizona's second, third string defensive line? And this offense performed so lackluster that they didn't even get taken out of the game until midway throughout the second quarter. Russell Wilson started out pretty slow, but I think he finished this game out really strong. 7-13, 93 passing yards and a touchdown. Now, Arizona, they gave up that touchdown to Jerry Jeudy because they decided to go with the all-out blitz, and they left Jerry Jeudy one-on-one with a second, third-string cornerback. And obviously, with how good of a route runner that Jerry Jeudy is and how good he is at getting open, if you put him in a one-on-one situation with a second or third-string cornerback, obviously we know that Jeudy is going to cook him. But, he still has his issues with being able to, catch the football. He had a drop in this game. Russell Wilson still missed on a couple of easy layups. There are a lot of growing pains that we saw in this game against the Arizona Cardinals coming from the Denver Broncos. And this is an offense that has still struggled throughout the majority of training camp. The Broncos defense has been getting the better of the Denver Broncos offense, and this offensive line has struggled for the majority of training camp. And this is their first string offensive line struggling against the second and third stringers on the defensive line for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, this just doesn't really look good right now. Now, it wasn't a completely bad performance. I mean, they did eventually start to put things together in the second quarter, but for it to take this long is really concerning. If you're Sean Payton, you want to put your starters out for 3-4 drives and you want to see some good things, but the fact that he left them out there for so long shows you that he wasn't satisfied with what he was seeing. He was really disappointing. And maybe I might have put a little bit too much faith in Sean Payton. I still believe that Sean Payton can fix Russell Wilson, but maybe this isn't going to be as easy as a fix as I may have thought. I was thinking that Sean Payton would be able to go into Denver and immediately get Russell Wilson cooking again, but obviously that hasn't happened. Russell Wilson still doesn't look anywhere close to being the quarterback that he used to be when he was playing for the Seattle Seahawks, and now we understand completely why the Seahawks bailed on him. The Seahawks essentially traded Russell Wilson and flipped him for a near Super Bowl caliber team. The Seahawks have one of the best rosters in the NFL going into this season. Meanwhile, the Denver Broncos are paying Sean Payton a lot of money to hope that he can get Russell Wilson back playing at a serviceable level so his contract doesn't look as bad. But the reality of the situation is this. With how slow this offense is kind of taken to get acclimated to Sean Payton's system, this may be something that lingers into the regular season. They may go into the regular season and struggle for the first half of the season because this offense still can't have good protection up front, and Russell Wilson still doesn't look all that great. Now, when Russell Wilson had somewhat of decent protection, he did make some pretty good throws, but even when he did have some decent protection, not all those throws were great. And the fact that the Broncos offense is struggling against the Arizona Cardinals, who have the worst roster in the NFL, that's a major concern. I mean, the Broncos should have came into this game and they should have been moving the ball up and down the field. So their offensive struggles continue. Last week, I came out and said that you Broncos fans shouldn't hit the panic button when the news came out that Russell Wilson and his offense were struggling in camp and his defense was getting the better of them. And we was thinking that, these were just growing pains. But these growing pains are still continuing throughout the preseason. And if this offense doesn't perform better for the last couple of games that they have in the preseason and this lingers on into the regular season, it might be a long year for Russ and company. Because their schedule is not tough. They're playing in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. You got to go against Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes twice, Justin Herbert and the Chargers twice. Brandon Staley is a defensive-minded coach. So, I mean, this is really concerning at this point. And I'm still not going to hit that panic button yet. But if they have another game where they struggle offensively and Sean Payton has to leave his first team offense in until midway through the second quarter, I do think that it will be time to hit the panic button. You see, like, my hand is like this. This is the button, and this is how close I am to touching that thing. Like, I'm really close to hitting that panic button. Because the fact that they were struggling against the Arizona Cardinals and their second string and third string defenders is really, really head scratching. And for Sean Payton, you know, what can he do differently to make this transition easier for Russell Wilson? What can he do to have this offense cooking at a much higher level? The fact that we're in the preseason going into week 2 and this offense still hasn't really made any strides and improvement compared to where they were last year is really concerning. Again, there's a lot of pressure on Sean Payton because remember, a couple of weeks ago, he called out Nathaniel Hackett and pretty much said that he was the reason for why the Broncos offense was so bad. Sean Payton is one of the best offensive minds in the history of the NFL. So if there's anybody who should have Russell Wilson being able to perform near the level that he was when he was playing for Seattle, it should be him. This is the same head coach that was 5-1 on top of the NFC South division, with Jameis Winston having the best touchdown to interception ratio in the league at that point prior to him getting his season ended by Devin White. He was still winning games with Taysom Hill, Ian Book after that, and Trevor Siemian. We've seen Sean Payton turn glitter to gold at the quarterback position. We've seen Sean Payton have really good offenses despite not having great talent on offense. But the Broncos have talent on offense. It's just, you know, things just aren't really going right so far. Garrett Bowles, their starting left tackle, he didn't look good in this game. And not just him, but their center didn't look good. Like, this whole entire offensive line was struggling against Arizona. Now, it is only the first week of preseason, so I am going to give Denver at least one more week before I start to hit the panic button, but I'm really close to hitting that thing right now. And if you're a Broncos fan, you got to be hella concerned right now. Your offense is struggling against Arizona, fam. Arizona, who the hell do they have on defense that is even elite at their position? Especially on their defensive line. They lost 2 of their best defensive linemen last year. Zach Allen, who plays for you, and then they lost J.J. Watt to retirement. So this is a pretty much new defensive line that they have going into this season, and nobody who really has a proven resume at being elite, at being able to get pressure on the quarterback. But yeah, they were getting so much push on your offensive line. This is really concerning. Really concerning. And like I said, I'm not going to hit the panic button yet because I still want to give them at least one more week. But if they struggle again, I think that this probably is going to linger into the regular season. Sean Payton, maybe he should have kept his mouth closed when he made those comments in that article that he did an interview for. Because so far, you know what they say, karma is a you know what. And so far, maybe that karma is starting to catch up to Sean Payton for dissing Nathaniel Hackett. Like, there's no way you can struggle against the Arizona Cardinals and still have a lot of faith that this thing is going to work. Just because I'm not hitting the panic button doesn't mean that I'm confident this is going to work. I mean, this offense could be better than what it was last year, but how better? What is improvement for the Denver Broncos offense? I mean, their offense could be slightly better than what it was with Nathaniel Hackett and still be terrible. So if Denver doesn't even have a top 15 offense, I don't even think they're going to be able to have even a 500 record this season. They're playing in the AFC where the majority of the best quarterbacks in the league reside. You got to play against 2 of them in your own division. And then Russell Wilson can't even give you top 15 quarterback play. I don't think you're going to go that far. And how good is your rushing attack going to be if your offensive line isn't good neither? It's a passing league. You can only you can only get away with not throwing the football as least as possible so many times until somebody stacks the box and forces you to say, hey, you got to beat us throwing the football through the air. So this Denver Broncos offense, man, they continue to struggle to cook. I know that they were able to get things flowing and they were able to get into somewhat of a rhythm in the second quarter, but the fact that it took so long for this offense to get going, it's really concerning. You know, and for Sean Payton to have, you know, the resume that he has, I kind of thought that he would have already had this offense a little bit improved right now. So far, this offense doesn't look any better right now than what it did under Nathaniel Hackett. Maybe he should have kept his mouth closed. Maybe he bit his own foot. This is what happens when you put your foot in your mouth. And even some people were saying that, maybe Sean Payton made those comments to say that, hey, this may be a little bit tougher than what we initially expected. And maybe he knows that he's in for a tougher job than what he initially expected. But these offensive struggles against Arizona isn't one of those, it's just the preseason things. Like, no, it's not. This is something that should be a big concern to you. And if it continues, you should definitely hit that panic button. I mean, like, this is the preseason, but your first team offense is struggling against second and third stringers of the Arizona Cardinals, dog. The worst team in the NFL with one of the worst rosters in the league. Really concerning what I'm seeing out of the Denver Broncos offense.